the world has become a global market. And so that means that when you're doing job applications, you're seeing 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 applicants, right, to that particular job. Now, how do you stand out? Companies really value people who are able to bring thought leadership into an organization because by nature, thought leaders take initiative. And organizations really value people who take initiative to drive things forward and actually get better results overall. I wasn't just applying to jobs. I was looking for connections. 8 a.m. in the morning, I'm downtown Toronto. I'm opening the office with Randstad, one of these recruiting firms. Without invitation, I would have already sat down before the front desk. I'm not joking. And I go there with my briefcase.
Welcome back to the Many Roads podcast. I'm your host, Oba Okusanya, and I just wanted to take this opportunity to say, hey, welcome back. If you made it back from previous episodes, welcome back. If this is your first time watching as well, welcome to the pod. This is the Many Roads podcast. We discuss real life topics with everyday people. And, we are, I guess, on this journey of building fulfilling lives and trying to discover how best to do that. Right. Today's guest is a guy that I find really inspiring and I've watched from afar and a little bit up close, I would say as well. He is a career mentor. He's a senior product manager. He is a real estate investor. He is, family guy, really chill guy, and he's a musician. I love musicians because I'm one as well. So please help me welcome none other than Pelumi Ogedengbe on the Many Roads podcast. Welcome, Pelumi.
And thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thanks for doing this. So one of I guess the only way we start this podcast typically with all our guests is we want to know a little bit of your backstory. Who's Pelumi? Where are you from? Kind of the background to all of that.
Yeah, man. Pelumi is just a chill, humble guy, hustling to get the best out of life. And while doing that, will make the biggest impact possible to make sure that fulfilling destiny, if you will. At least from the way I see it from my own lenses. I am obviously Nigerian. The name Ogedengbe is too strong for it not to be Nigerian. Unfortunately, I can't film abroad. So, full-fledged Nigerian-born guy. Straight up, I'm an Ibadan guy from Nigeria, right?
Hey, let's go,
Um,
IB. IB, what's up?
IB people, I'm an IB guy. Grew up for the most part in IB as well. Although also grew up in Lagos. Um, I'm originally from Osun State. That's where like Ogedengbe is from. And yeah, man, that's really about me. I'm a married man, have a beautiful wife and a very lovely boy, who's gonna be 3 sometime in May. Yeah, what
Oh, that's
else?
awesome.
Yeah, man, that's about me, really.
I guess a follow-up question would be when did you move to Canada?
I moved to Canada 10 years ago now, actually. I moved to Canada January. I actually remember the exact date. I moved to Canada January 2nd, 2015. I flew from Nigeria on New Year's, literally. Yeah, the night of New Year's, I packed my bag and I said, Nigeria, uses.
That takes New Year, New Me to a different level, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, I came in 2015. Initially, I came for my master's. Uh, I went to University of Windsor for my
Okay.
master's in accounting and finance. That's what.
Oh,
That's what I initially.
your bachelor's in Nigeria, was it accounting as well?
It was banking and finance, Governor University.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh wow, nice.
and then
So
I came
you've always
accounting and finance. Yeah.
oh wow. So you've always kind of been in that banking and finance world, I guess, at that time at least, right?
I hope. Yes, at that time I was in the finance world. Finance was my gig. As a matter of fact, I came to Canada because my dream was come to Canada, do my masters, get into investment banking, end up on Wall Street.
Mm.
That was my
Wolf
dream.
of Wall Street. Okay.
Yes, that was my. I don't see that movie now, so I don't see as in the wear suits. You understand? I wanted to be a part of it. That was my initial dream when I came to Canada. To be honest with you, so yeah, and I thought I liked finance.
Okay, let's get into that. So you of course grew up in Nigeria, Ibadan, all that stuff. Some Lagos in there. You go to Covenant University, leave Nigeria, come to Canada, New Year's, for a master's in finance and in accounting, right? And
Mm.
then, but now you're a product manager. Okay, so you need to walk us through that evolution because it's a significant leap.
Yeah, definitely, man. So yeah, I came from my masters. Beginning, like I said, my dream was to end up in investment banking, but it was more of a dream that was born out of, how do I put it? It was a dream that was born out of desire rather than a dream born out of true introspection and reflection of who I am as a person. So I'll tell you what happened. So after I finished my master's, I started working in accounting and finance, right? Did some accounting for a bit, then I started doing a bit of finance as well. And I realized that I absolutely hated being on spreadsheets.
Wow.
Absolutely detest it. Right? Like I can be like in my job today, I still be about my spreadsheets, but I can be on spreadsheets all day, right? You're trying to close like your books for the month. You're on spreadsheets and those damn GL reports all day. And I was losing my mind. I'd never been so miserable on a job. Like my
Wow.
last job in finance, I remember working through different models, right? Trying to, different finance models and spending time in spreadsheets. Man, at some point, I'll be looking at the screen like this, and it looks like, remember the matrix where the numbers start to pop? Man, bro, the numbers are doing like this for me. I'm like, yo, this thing will kill me. So I knew for a fact after testing, I was like, yo, this is really not for me. And it
Mm,
wasn't for me because it didn't align with who I was as a person.
okay.
Right? Again, I'm not the person to be stuck behind a screen. I'm the type of person to communicate, to be involved in conversations, to brainstorm, to solve problems, and most importantly, to see tangible solutions, to see the sort of the fruit of my labor, as opposed to
Okay.
my finance, where I'm sorry, like the the my deliverable is still on the spreadsheet. You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? Like rather than like what I do now, where I can actually see and almost feel and experience what I'm building, right? So for me, I took a step back, right, after I got laid off, to be honest. Because and honestly speaking, was I sad I got laid off? Yes, but my sadness was about 20% of my feelings. The other 80%, I was just happy that, okay, now God wants to start what He wants to start in my life. You know what I'm saying? So I did a bit of introspection, I did a bit of self reflection, and then I realized three core things about me. I am very curious, I'm great at
Okay.
communication, and I am a creative. Those three things stood out for me. Again, there's curiosity, communication, and creativity, right? And so I started to look at, okay, where are the career paths that will allow those three things to use those three things, right? Rather than me trying to form, of course I can do all things, absolutely. But, you know, like the fact that I can do all things doesn't mean I should be working against my strengths. I'm best when I'm working within my strengths. So I needed to find a
Yeah.
career path that will allow those three strengths that I identified to shine in a career. That way, work will feel less like what I realized that will help work feel less like a chore, but rather something I actually enjoy. So that's when I started looking into different career paths, spoke to a couple people, a couple mentors, And then I started looking into then IT business analysis. Now, mind you, when I did my NYSC in Nigeria in 2014, right, for a year, I actually did that job. But you know the way Nigeria is now, they don't really label it that, right? But essentially, I worked at a university. I was helping them to transform their accounting system. So they were using like everything was manual, or they were using Peachtree, and they were trying to replace Peachtree with a completely different system because Peachtree was a legacy accounting tool. So I did that job, but we didn't label it as business analysis. So when I now started reading about business analysis and doing my research, and I said, "Oh, actually, I've done this before, and I enjoyed it." And so that was how I was able to get back into tech by doing a bootcamp course. You know, really, really immersing myself into it. I was able to get into tech, and then from doing business analysis for about 4-ish 5 years, and then I pivoted into product management, which I've now been doing. I did maybe BA for like three years, and then about now I've been doing product management for over the past 5 years, a little over 5 years. Yeah. Yeah, that's how I got here. Yeah.
It's funny because when you say it like that, it seems like it was very straightforward. But I want you to talk about. See, there's something that a lot of people, I would say, don't pay a lot of attention to when they're in the process of pivoting careers, and it's the emotional side of things. Like, it's very easy to say, you know what, I have a plan. I'm going to do this boot camp, and then I'm going to apply, and then I'm going to get the job. But in between, there's a whole lot of rejection,
Yeah.
and if you're not careful, that rejection can like make you quit. Can you
Uh,
talk about how you dealt with that in that phase?
man. So again, like if you guys remember from my introduction, I'm a bit of a hustler type of person. I'm one of those guys that the mindset I have is I don't really take no for an answer. I keep on knocking till the door opens. So I'll tell you guys when I was looking for a job, like like the way my mind works is I always need to keep my mind occupied, right? So one of the things that I did when I was out of job was I made sure that I had a routine around myself to keep me sane. So in the mornings, I would do job applications. And I'll come to that in a bit, how I was going about that process. So usually I would do like 7 a.m. to 12 noon or 1 p.m. job applications, right? Morning to early afternoon. You see, from 2 p.m., I rest for a bit, eat, right? From 2 p.m. to 8, Baba, me, I go streets, go hustle. Uber. Oh my God. Uber, because I'm a guy. I need to feel like I'm doing something as well. I can't just sit down. So that way, it actually helped me to cope because I knew that, okay, I was making some money, right? I felt like doing something. The money was not a lot, to be honest with you. And it really wasn't about that, right? So I was making some money, right? I felt like I was doing something while I was looking for my ideal thing. And then after the Uber period, it was either I was in church or playing at a gig or something, right? So that way, my days were packed. So I wasn't sitting around just looking at computer expecting a recruiter call. No, I made sure I built that routine around my time to make me feel like I was achieving something still. That way, I wasn't getting sunk into the we regret to emails that right. So I wasn't paying too much. I was only focusing on okay, do I have an interview or do I not have an interview? Now, in terms of my job application, I wasn't just applying to jobs. I was looking for connections. So 8 a.m. in the morning, and I was living in Mississauga then. 8 a.m. in the morning, I'm downtown Toronto. I'm opening the office with Randstad, one of these recruiting firms, without invitation. I'm opening the office with them. I will already sat down before the front desk. I'm not joking. And I go there with my briefcase. No jokes. Well, I remember one day, I was there at 8 a.m. The front desk was just opened up around 8:30. Then she addressed me and said, "Oh, sorry, sir. What company are you from?" So
Ah,
in her mind, I came to give them business to hire talents for my company because
yeah.
I always dressed up as well, looked the part, right?
Mm.
But you know, for me, I built a lot of strong relationship with recruiters at that time.
Okay. Good.
I always got because I was always tenacious, I always got their attention. Even without an appointment, they'll tell me, okay, this guy has some free time, go speak to him. And then even if you're just sitting down there and the recruiter will help me to like trash my resume into pieces. That was exactly what it was. And that was how I was going about doing job applications until I found a breakthrough, right? Now, when I got into tech, when I got into, when I broke that barrier and eventually got into tech, it was then a completely different story, right? To obviously me, I don't know about people. Me, I attribute everything to God, Jesus, right?
That's right.
For me, ever since I then got into tech, I stopped up. I don't apply to jobs anymore. To God's glory, like all of those jobs now apply to me. So I'm talking maybe 8 jobs. I mean, you know, let me not dive into that. How I've done 8 jobs in 8 years or whatever. Let's not go there. You understand? There's a bit level, right? but but technically, all of those jobs, I'm talking top companies. I've always all reached out to me now, being headhunted, right? To God's glory, right? So it's a completely different story. But in my day, when I was really like hustling for the jobs and everything, man, I was very tenacious. I made that, listen, because obviously right now I'm very involved in the community, helping people to like transition, make career transitions. And I thought the emails, the regrets to where you're burning a lot of energy applying and you're just getting rejections, it can get to you. One of the key things that I did for myself, when you create a schedule around your time, right, it really shifts your mindset. I'm telling you, because you have other things that are occupying your mind. But if not all that's occupying your mind is just the job applications and the rejections, it's very easy to feel
Mm.
depression and to lose that overall motivation, right? So, but by creating a routine around your time that way, you feel it a little bit less. And more importantly, you discover new things about yourself. Because at the end of the day, businesses are birthed out of those kind of things. You might realize a problem. Oh, okay. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm. So, what new things would you say you discovered about yourself in that process?
So for me in that process, even though I was searching for jobs and talking to recruiters, I realized how much of that information I was gaining, I wanted to pass along to other people,
Okay.
right? So even though I was searching, me and my guys, I'm a guy, I've learned this from this recruiter. Let's figure it out together. I realized how much I wanted to like pass along that information, right? To help other people, which is sort of what birthed my own journey, such that shortly after getting into tech, I started helping other people because I realized that about myself. Like, oh, I really enjoy this aspect of like being a tool or a service that other people can definitely benefit from. In that sense.
Mm. Okay. Nah, that's amazing. So essentially, in the period of pain, you kind of find some purpose in there, right? You kind of find some direction as to like, okay, maybe this is not all I'm supposed to be doing in my life, but a part of what I'm supposed to be doing in my life is also kind of passing down this information, this knowledge that I've gained in this period of pain
Yep.
that you've like painfully gained, and then
Yep.
passing it down to people.
A hundred
Now,
percent.
but I want you to take you back, William, because you've talked about how you dealt with the rejection, and then you kind of touched briefly on how subsequently a lot of the jobs you've gotten from that point, of course, by God's grace, have you've been headhunted for and recruited for. But I also know that there's see, God does his part, but we as humans also have to do our part.
Hundred
And
percent.
I know that you have a strong presence online,
Yeah.
right? So I want you to talk about how putting yourself out there in the world has now made it so that opportunities can find you.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Honestly, you said it perfectly. It was now about putting myself out there on like LinkedIn, on even like social media. Like, I mean, or LinkedIn is social media, but on LinkedIn, on like Instagram and like Facebook and like Twitter, right? Twitter less off, but like especially Instagram now and LinkedIn, I really take advantage of those two because, and don't get me wrong, like it's not easy to always put yourself out there.
No,
You
it's
know,
not.
like initially you're going to have like that imposter syndrome. Oh, what are people going to think about this? What are people going to think about that? But honestly, my own mantra is honestly just do it. Do it scared, but just do it. See, if you do it well, people will talk about you. If you don't do it well, they will still talk about you. So, conclusion, it doesn't matter as long as I make sure that I'm providing some sort of value, even if it is one person. Don't get me wrong, obviously, I have big thinking mentality. I don't stop. I do not stop, right? We're in a day where when an environment like things have changed. Things are not what they used to before, right? The competition is higher, the stakes are higher. You can imagine from like a recruiter standpoint as well, where the employment space has become a global. There are people in Nigeria that are earning 200,000 US. You know what I'm saying? Like from working remotely for companies in the US. So the world has become a global market.
Mm.
And so that means that when you're doing job applications, you're seeing 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 applicants, right, to that particular job. Now, how do you stand out? It's not, think about it from a recruiter standpoint. Unfortunately, they cannot interview 4,000 people for a job. You understand? It's just not possible. Even if 500 of them, even if 1,000 of them have the greatest resume that has existed, they can't interview 1,000 people. So
Mm.
now, how do you create those differentiations for yourself? Honestly, is by being more visible. If you're more in their faces, if the more you are in people's faces, the more they remember you, right? And
Exactly.
that could be from dropping a comment on someone's post, posting something of your own. That way, people are seeing it intentionally and unintentionally. They're seeing it such that when they now think, oh, product management, they think, oh, I know this guy, Pelumi, that writes about product management, that writes about all of these things. Oh, let's find out. I still got an email from a recruiter even while I was on vacation for a job. Unfortunately, I was not able to respond because honestly, I just wanted to check out of everything. But the recruiter reached out about a particular job opportunity at, honestly, I don't remember the company, to be honest with you. But they reached out to me about a particular job opportunity. And again, how are they finding me? By through
Mm.
like that presence that I now have. And so I feel like a lot of people sleep on it where
Mm.
me, I don't want to be on LinkedIn, I don't want people to know about my business. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But me, please let them know about me, please. I need their help. Me, I need their help. So let me put myself out there and bet on myself. You know what I'm saying?
Bet on yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that visibility has really it's provided a ton of opportunities where I'm
Yeah.
overall more noticed. You know what I'm saying? You want to make
Yeah.
sure, you know, like my goal is like to make sure that I'm seen as a thought leader in my industry. You know, companies really value people who are able to bring thought leadership into an organization because by nature, thought leaders take initiative. And organizations really value people who take initiative to drive things forward and actually get better results overall for the organization. So that's how I see it.
Yeah. So essentially, by putting yourself out there, you're kind of it's marketing. Is what it is. You're
1,000%.
you're marketing yourself in such a way where employers now know this would be a great addition to our team. Because at the end of the day, everybody's selfish. Everybody's in it for what they can get,
Yep.
right? Like your company is not hiring you because they want to help your life. No,
No.
they're hiring you because you have work to do.
Yes. Because you can
You
help
know,
them.
because you can help them. But Pelumi, I want to touch on something. There's something you said where it's like betting on yourself from your perspective, and I know you do some coaching as well, where you help people kind of transition to tech and all that stuff. But from your perspective, and based off of conversations you've had, what would you say is the major hindrance to people betting on themselves? Because this information, this advice that you're giving, a lot of people give it, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of action towards taking it. So what would you say is holding people back from betting on themselves?
Honestly, from what I've mostly seen, the biggest one is the imposter syndrome, where people feel like they're not good enough
Okay.
or, you know, they're not enough, right? That imposter syndrome. And, I feel like everything comes from the mind. Like if your mind hasn't processed it, that's where the imposter syndrome really creeps in and cripples people. But what you have to realize is that, I'm sorry, but everybody's figuring it out. Everybody is figuring it out. I'm telling you, everybody is figuring it out. So, but people feel like they have to have a certain level of knowledge or of composure to get it out there. No, not quite. Not quite. The more you do, the better you get at doing. Honestly speaking, like, it's the biggest hack. The more you do, the better you get at doing that thing. It's not through trying to form it up in your mind that, oh, I'm now good at this thing, and then you jump out there. Not quite, right? So that imposter syndrome I see as the biggest thing that really cripples people from like putting themselves out there, right? What would people think or blah 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 blah, right? But honestly, just start doing it, right? At the end of the day, you will get better at doing that thing from doing it. That's what I see.
Yeah, that's solid advice, bro. That's solid advice. And it's something that I agree with, and like hence all these things that it seems like I'm doing, which is, and the other day, um, someone asked me a question like, "Are you getting paid for all these things you're doing?" And I was like, "Not right now." You know what I mean?
Not yet.
But you not yet, but you have to eventually like understand that it will pay dividends,
Yeah, it
right?
will.
Like you don't put value out in the world, and eventually the world not start to put value back in you.
Exactly.
You know, so it's just, but I think people just struggle with the fact that, like you said, I don't want to put my business out there. I don't want to put my face out there. It's like, bro, privacy, whatever, whatever. I'm like, bro, everybody already knows who you are. They already have the information, anyways. But I digress.
Facts.
um, so okay, Palumi, we've touched on career and the pivot, the main pivot that you did in terms of career. I want to talk to you now much more on a personal level, right? Um, One thing that I really love about the way you kind of handle yourself is I can tell that you're driven, and I can tell that of course you're creative. You're an excellent drummer, but I can also tell that you're very like personable, like. And I think it is so it's a thing that even shows in your story where you talked about how you would go to the recruiters' offices, and it's like you realize that the power of networking,
Mm,
and the power of relationships
mhm,
and getting to connect with people. You realize that like I guess at an earlier stage in your career that this could really help me.
mhm.
Where does that come from?
Honestly, it comes from my background, like of just years and years of. I would say I'm thankful because I'm definitely fortunate, right? Fortunate that obviously I grew up in a good family. My dad, my mom, they always instilled like really good values in us. Also, I went to like from high school to university. I went to like high school and university, like in schools where instilling those values was everything. So for me, like one of the first things I ever learned was your attitude would determine your altitude. So no matter how good you are at a thing, if your attitude sucks, there's a limit. You're gonna feel it. Because at the end of the day, you're never doing something, whatever that thing is you're doing, you need people. You need people. So if you can't handle people relationships, if you don't know how to like maintain good relationships, if you don't know how to be personable, if your attitude sucks as a person, if you are rude,
Hmm.
or, you know, for me, those are pet peeves to me because uh, the way me I see this thing, my brother. They cut this my skin. Isn't that red blood? Hey God. So who am I to feel like I'm
Mm,
better than the next person?
that's
You know
right.
what I'm saying? So like for me,
Yeah,
that's the mindset that I come from. And that helps me to transcend respect to everybody, no matter who the person is. Generally, that's my first rule, right? Respecting the person's time, regardless of who it is, right? No, regardless of their age, much younger than me, much older than me. You know what I'm saying? But I understand that like that attitude will really determine that altitude. Because at the end of the day, right, you have to realize that people, yes, they appreciate your skill. People would rather work with someone who has skill and the attitude to match it because that attitude will really help determine the synergies that you develop as you climb up in the ladder. That's why, so for me, like the relationship building aspect is top number one, right? If you can build relationship, kind of think about like our own, like what we do, music. I'm sorry, I'm thankful to God for my gift, but I've had some producers that will tell me that, believe me, we have you here not just because of your skill, but because of your attitude.
that's right.
Quite literally. There are many drummers that are better than me, Sal. Let me just be honest with you. My brother, there are plenty, many that are better than, right? But the relationships that you build where, people will tell you, oh, my, I want Oba to play this bass for me. It's more than just the skill. Of course, you're proficient in your skill, but
Yeah.
there is when you're in the room, there's a level of cooperation and collaboration that you bring that they enjoy. You get what I'm saying? So that's how personally I see it.
Nah, that's amazing, bro. And it's I saw a post on LinkedIn. I think was it on LinkedIn or I forget where it was. That was pretty much talking about how a lot of people undervalue the importance of being great to work with,
Yeah.
like being easy to work with. Like a lot of
Yeah.
people just overlook it and think, oh, it's work. I don't have to. I don't. And I'm not saying like go to work and like tell everybody your like whole life story and your, you know what I mean. But like at least be relatable. At least be
Yes.
personable.
Be personable,
You
man.
know.
It matters a
Yeah.
lot.
But
A whole lot.
mm, and have you seen that play like a significant role in terms of like maybe not even promotions, but like just even like opportunities opening up even outside of the workplace? You touched on drumming, but have you seen, just in life in general, have you seen other opportunities open up just because somebody remembered your name or said your name in a place?
100%, bro. Happens every time. Like a lot of people that even come to me for like coaching and pay me for coaching, it's because someone mentioned my name to them. It's because someone mentioned my name to them, and then through that they started following me. Organizations mentioned my name to them. Oh, have you tried? There's this guy Pelumi Ogedengbe. Oh, look him up.
Mm.
Right? It's through that a lot of opportunities, and honestly, endless opportunities come to me that way. So for me, that's massive. So like ensuring that everyone I come across lives with some sort of a positive experience in terms of me as a person is like my is one of my core values, like in terms of business, honestly speaking. Like I see a lot of people who would maybe come to me for like a coaching service. After they coach with me, they will refer their sibling will refer their cousin, and then that way they quite honestly speaking, right? So for me, that's a big deal. Big deal.
Yeah. And one thing I can also like, I really enjoy, I really like about like the way you kind of approach things is you approach things with a lot of honesty, which is lacking, I would say, in a lot of like coaches and like it just feels like a lot of people are trying to sell us stuff, right? As opposed to like, hey, I'll give you the information I have. You have a part to play. You know what I
100%.
mean? But I will help you as best as I can. But like, I'm not Houdini. I'm not gonna wave a magic wand. you know.
Honestly speaking, yeah, I tell them as well, yeah, 100%.
So, and the reason why I bring that up is because in whatever it is that we do in business, in career, whatever. I think that honesty, having a like an honest approach to people can tell when you're being fake or when you're telling lies. You know what I mean? Like, so how are you very like, of course you're a Christian, I know, and you're of course morally astute, but how do you make sure that like at every point in time you're being honest with these people because they're entrusting you with money
Yeah.
and with time and with,
Yeah.
hey, this guy can help me. How do you handle that?
Yeah. So I honestly I make expectations clear. I remember one lady one time she reached out to me for coaching service and then she was trying to book coaching and then before payment, she was asking me, uh, what guarantees can you give? Right. So that I told her honestly, can I guarantee that you will get a job, right, from my coaching service? I told her no. Why? Because at the end of the day, my sister, now you go still do the interview. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, I won't shall sit down there inside the interview hall with you. You know? Well, it's gonna be you. But what I told her is, however, what I can assure you is growth. I can assure you that you will be much better than before you started engagements with me. Right? And that line quite literally just sold the person over because I was just being open with her. Right? I can assure you, right? If you come into one of my coaching programs, right, you will grow. I can assure you that for a fact. So, but however, it depends on you where you take that growth to. 'Cause at the end of the day, you have a role to play. And so, like, I just make sure that I manage their expectations. Don't think I'm suddenly going to wave a wand, like you said, right? Pick wand, and suddenly Google is going to call you and give you here's an offer letter without an interview. Oh, really? My sister, I'm not
That one
competing.
at 419.
That one at home. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
That's a scam, bro.
that's a scam. And I tell them, like, if anybody tells you that, you should question them.
mm,
You
you
should question
should.
because quite
Yeah.
frankly speaking, it's just not how it works. That's not how it works, right? You know,
Yeah.
so that's honestly just making sure that one thing I also like make sure that I listen for when I'm, in a client interaction is I listen for where they are struggling,
Okay.
right? Or sort of their problem areas. It's kind of my job. It's kind of my life. Like as a product manager, it's my job to really listen to the market and really hear where their pain points are and to make sure that I have targeted messaging and targeted value sets to really help address those pain points for them. So that way they're able to see that, okay, this guy is really delivering value where
Yeah.
I'm mostly feeling the pain in this career transition or whatever other business engagement I have with them. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's I think that's a good way to put it. It's a if we set expectations going into this, it's easier if we all know what we're doing and what we're getting out of this.
Yeah.
You know, and no one can come and be like, "Hey, you told me in 2 weeks I will be working at Facebook." I had to interrupt the podcast to tell you about the free communication guide that I'm giving away. I used to struggle with speaking with authority, sharing my thoughts with clarity, and conveying my message and ensuring that the audience received it the right way until I walked through this 7 step framework that I put into a guide and that I hope helps you. So I'm giving that away. It's free. Check the link in the description, get it, and improve your communication. I'm rooting for you. Let's get back to the pod. Anyways, let's leave the world of career and go into like the other side of you, which is real estate. Um, what was your introduction into the real estate market? How did you get into that? Like, could you give us a brief like intro into that?
Yeah. So in 2019, before I got in 2019, obviously I go to like I would want to like shed light on the value of being surrounded with people that drive you to be better. right? And one thing I'm thankful for is my church community, personally, where obviously I've then been exposed to, the value in owning real estate. One from a biblical standpoint, right, and also from just a securing your future standpoint. So you know, once I had gotten into tech, I'd settled into tech a little bit, started pushing in 2019. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get married in the next year, 2020. I want to make sure that before I get married, I want to have owned my own house while I was single. So I hustled hard. One thing that I did that was very practical was I made sure that I cut my coat according to my material, right? I didn't while I was renting, right? I didn't
Mm,
go rent some bogus apartments downtown Mississauga
mhm.
paying 27 3K, 2700 or 3000, ridiculous like that. I made sure that I kept my my expenditures low so that I could
Okay.
maximize savings right for my
Oh,
first
I
family.
see.
Right. That's one thing that I
Yeah.
practically did. Because I see a lot of people fall into, oh, I want a lakeshore view. Oh, really? Me personally, I was staying in a basement, but my basement was quite nice. To be fair, like it had two floors. So I was on the first floor, I had like room in the basement as well. But my living room was on the first floor of the house. It was one of those stacked townhouses, or stacked townhouse. So I had a bit more space than usual. But then I was paying like $700 or 750. So I kept that for 2 years. And that really helped me to like just put money aside. Then I bought my first property in Hamilton in 2019. That was how I got into real estate. Then obviously, as I got into real estate, I like to be in the know. So again, from my finance background, I'm very conversant with investments and things like that. So as I was looking, I'm like, you know what? I needed to look for the right opportunity to get out
Mhm.
of that on that property. Why? Because it was not my forever property. I just wanted to get into the market, right? So I wasn't looking like at my. I'm still not in my forever,
Bro,
forever.
none of us are, bro.
No, do you get? So
Yeah.
so I just made sure that let me just get into the market as quickly as possible. Why? Because you can't outsave the market, unfortunately. You cannot outsave the market. You and I know how difficult it is to say you want to save 50K a year. Are you hundred
Bro.
thousand dollars a year, bro? You didn't want me? Don't you see? I don't see the expenses. God. So as I got into the market, and to be honest, I bought in an area of Hamilton, even though it was a brand new house, it was a
Mhm.
pre-construction, but it was around downtown Hamilton. I don't know how much
Okay.
Hamilton downtown, but let's just say it does need the intervention of the Lord. Do you understand? He's giving a bit of the hood. So I knew I wanted to get out of the property, but it was a nice property. So the right moment when I could get out. And then COVID struck. Eh? As COVID struck,
Mm.
I was monitoring the prices of the market. Ah,
Mm.
happening here. The market just shot up. Property that I bought for $400,000, I sold it in a year and a half for $630,000. Right? Yeah. So I walked out. My brother, I walked out of that property a changed man. Do you understand? So that was where my real estate journey began. Obviously, from there, took that money, diversified, bought a couple of other properties. And that's how for me I was able to like spread my investments across multiple properties now that I now own. And then I own out of state within the state as well. And then, in terms of like that in terms of the diversification, make sure that one was more of like rental, another one of Airbnb. But then Airbnb market started to shake, but I have flexibility right now. So I changed, converted it to rental, even though I'm still doing Airbnb here on when it comes, but more of rental because they're like different units now in the house. So for me, that's how I was able to like get into like real estate. Yeah.
Bro, that's fantastic because my story is kind of similar as well. Like what I had done was shortly before I got married as well. I saved up all I could, bro. Like I even remember at the time, like it was time like getting close to my wedding, and they were asking me for some money for some. I was like, yo, I don't have it. I've put all my money. I've put all my money to buy a house, bro. Because it just felt so important to me that I should get into the market at that time, because I was like, I can't guarantee that these prices are going to stay the way they are. And to touch on what you said, where you can't outsave the market. Like, for someone who's watching this, who's like looking to buy their first property, what strategy would you tell them to like employ? Like, how would you tell them to go about it? Because follow me, you and I were in the GTA. So for anyone who's watching this outside of Canada, that's the Greater Toronto area. So we're within
Yeah,
Toronto, and it's ridiculously expensive.
crazy.
So, if you're in a place where it's cheaper, like, God bless you, you should go ahead and do that right now. But for someone who's kind of in a place that's expensive or similar, how would you tell them to go about it? Because, like you said, saving up 100K in a year, bro, it's difficult.
Nearly impossible, to be honest with you. Let me just be honest now, right? So what I tell people, what I recommend is prioritize getting in quickly with
Okay.
funds
Mhm.
over the type of property and this and that, right? Prioritize getting it as quickly as possible so that you can get some return on investment that you can then use to expand. So, the ways that I consider doing that is look for cheaper areas. If you have to go buy in flipping Edmonton, Calgary, I'm there. I'm there. I can tell you that I'm there with them, right? Go there and get into something first and foremost.
Mhm.
A sister of mine bought a property very recently. It was a pre-construction, got into it at 310, okay, in Calgary area. Already now, those properties are not for 360. So that's 50K that she's already gained on her property, right? That potentially she can pull funds from, right? Unfortunately, in 3 months, you're not going to see 50K. Let's be honest now. You're not. Yes, you're not. Unless maybe you're not doing 95 and you're getting money from elsewhere. If you're doing this 95, if you're doing this 95 with us, you are not going to save 50. Maybe not the one I said, you cannot. Do you- So that's one strategy. Look for cheap areas and just try to get into the
Mhm.
market. Of course, look at the numbers, please. Right.
Yeah.
To look at those appreciation rates. Or look for people who you can get into a legal agreement with. So that you can join, you can do like a JV, a joint venture
Okay.
to get it
Yeah.
up, right? So
Mhm.
that if you can come in with a few other people, right, that really helps you to spread the risk, and it's another way to be able to get into the market quicker, right? So those are the things that I personally recommend. So let's say you want to get something in GTA, and then you identify the property, you have some money, you have a couple of friends, get into a legal agreement with a lawyer, draft something for you
Yeah.
guys, so that you have, the split responsibilities on the property, and then that's another way you can easily use it to get into something, so that even if it is 30K that you get out of it plus your capital, it's still something. Because
It's still
again,
something.
you want the market to work for you. You don't want to be working to try to save for the market every time. That's where I recommend it. Sha.
Yeah. I think that's a balanced approach, because if you're not able to like come up with all that down payment on your own, at least if you kind of enter some sort of agreement with people, a legal way to do that, and then you kind of split that responsibility, right? And for some people might say, I've heard some people say, you know what, I'm just not going to buy a home. Like, home ownership is not just a thing I'm going to do. What would be your kind of pushback to them in terms of, this is a great way to build wealth. This is a great vehicle, wealth building vehicle. Like, what would you tell them?
If you check most millionaires out there,
Mm.
real estate is always a secure investment. Right now it might look like the market is a bit tougher and everything, but in
Mhm.
the longer run, it always appreciates. That's number one.
Mm.
From a biblical standpoint, there's a part of the scripture that talks about owning a piece of the land. The earth is the Lord's and thereof, right? There's a scripture, I don't remember exactly off my head. So for me, if people who are listening are also Christians. I believe that there's biblical responsibility there on a piece of the land. That's first and foremost. Two is just making sure that you have that security for the future. And I know people do RSPs and RESPs. Trust me, I do them too, right? Yes. Me, oh, my priority is real estate. If I can build wealth in real estate, much better. Now, people might say, oh, it doesn't make sense for them, blah, blah, blah. So they're even like people out there that saying, oh, it's better to rent, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. But like, kind of think about, let me just even bring it like in the most simplistic manner, right? You're
Mhm.
paying 2 grand a year to rent an apartment for, sorry, 2 grand a month to rent an
A
apartment
month. Yeah.
month,
Yeah.
right? Over 12 months, that's 24 grand. 24K that has done nothing for you, that you cannot gain a dime from. Like, I just personally do not see a way that that is a positive for me. Do you get? I I struggle to wrap my head around it. How would that somebody 24, 30, 40, 50K? And I don't have anything like to
Mm.
show for it. So that's why I recommend if you can get into one property or the other, get into it. One, you secure your money. Because to be honest with you, if you keep your money in the bank, let's be honest with you, what's the best interest rate out there that the bank will give you on all these high interest rate accounts?
Maybe 4% or
Maybe four
something.
percent. Maybe 4%. Do you get what I'm saying?
Can you imagine?
So,
Yeah.
and mind you, people think that they'll be getting 4% or 50K per month. No, it's 4% for the whole year. The whole year.
Yeah.
4%, 4% of 50K, for example, is what? 10% is 5K, right?
They're 2K.
About 2K. For the
Yeah.
entire year, your
Can you
50K that
imagine,
you
bro?
kept in bank account will get you $2,000. Now, when you think about that, you should ask yourself, really? So does it make sense for me to go and put my money in real estate that can potentially double that investment, even if it doubles it in 5 years? Your high interest rate account will never do that for you. So that's what I would say to people that are struggling with the idea of whether they should invest in real estate or not invest in real estate. 100%
Mhm.
recommend. 100%.
Yeah. No. I couldn't agree more, bro. Because like I like to think I like to tell people like the first real estate deal I did actually changed my life.
Mhm.
In the sense that like there was no way I could have saved up all that money that I was able to get in equity when I sold. Like it's just not like, bro. It's like a multiplier. It's just not possible,
It's
like
just not.
and then from that point, there's so much more you can do when you now get a little bit of that cushion. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Yeah. But okay, so we've talked about career, we've talked about real estate. I want to talk about family briefly before I let you go, Pelumi. Like you said, you're married to a wonderful, amazing woman. You have a son. Um, how has like fatherhood and all that? How has that changed you? You know.
Man, honestly, it's a very different experience. Obviously, like knowing that now you are kind of everything around you has to change. Everything when I became a dad, everything around me had to change. Right? My sleeping habits, my working habits,
Mm,
everything, because I have to be there for my son. Right?
that's right.
I will say it could be very stressful, right? Because there's somebody who is completely dependent on you, at least for now, until they become old. At least from a physical standpoint, they're completely dependent on you. And so you have to have your things together. You have to have your own life together, right? And so while it's challenging, I would say for me personally, it's absolutely the most beautiful thing. I wouldn't exchange it for anything. Honestly speaking, I would not change it for anything, right? No matter how hectic it is for me. Having your mini me running around you, playing with you is always something I would honestly speaking forever cherish personally. So for me, it's been a challenging experience, but one where the rewards are so big and so intangible that honestly speaking, I can't even put it to words. The feelings that being a dad makes me feel. And maybe Loki makes me feel a little bit old too, sha, but
That's awesome. And the reason why I bring it up is because like I can also relate to the fact that like your life changes like drastically. And but then I think much more importantly is the way you view the world changes,
Yeah.
you know. Um and it's you start to view the world in a place where it's like, I want to make sure that the world is better, and I want to do my own part to make sure that the world my children get to live in is better. So from your standpoint today, like, what are some of the things that you're doing apart from like career, and like, what are some of the things that you would encourage viewers to do as well, just to in that lane.
So you're talking about people who have children, right?
Yeah, I guess this is for people who have children or people who will have children,
Yeah.
if
So
they desire.
yeah, the one thing that for me personally has really been ringing my bells lately is just the thinking of what legacy am I going to leave behind for my children, right? You know, my parents did an incredible job in ensuring that I didn't start from their feet. I started from their shoulders, right? I have to replicate the same, right? The kids should be starting from my shoulders and not having and shouldn't have to be starting from the ground. That question really keeps me up at night. What legacy am I going to leave behind for them? Right? Um, you've heard the popular story of how Donald Trump's dad left him $1 billion and contact list of blah blah blah, right? Makes a massive difference as to the altitude your children can really get to, right? I don't again my parents did a fantastic job. I hustled because I wanted. I mean, when I say hustle, I was not carrying that. When I say hustle, it's like more um like decent hustling, right? Um, not and I didn't hustle because I didn't have or they didn't provide for me. Trust me, they really did. I hustled because I just wanted my own thing out of life, right? Um, but I want my kids to, again, from my shoulders, if possible, say from my head. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing that keeps me up at night and just thinking about that future for them. So yeah.
How do you balance those thoughts and those plans now with, okay, I want to make sure that I give my children a great start in life, but I also don't want to rob them of the lessons they're supposed to learn.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because that's where I am, and that's like, even though my kid is he's just like turning 3 as well,
Yeah.
but it's something that I've been thinking about, where I'm like, I want the best out of life for you, buddy, but I also know that some of the challenges I had is what helped me learn some important things that have paid dividends now. So
Yeah.
how do you balance that?
Honestly speaking, it's something I'm still learning myself. I can't claim to know it because my child is just turning 3. You know what I'm saying? But I guess one of the ways that I've been thinking about it personally has just been um, guided exposure, right? So, for example, God's grace, I'm hoping to stand up my own business, right? And so the way I kind of envision it by God's grace is, how can I provide my kids exposure early to start, let's even park business one side. But one of the things I intend to do is, for the sake of learning ways of the market of the industry and in quotes the streets, I want to expose my kids as early as in terms of practicality, like when they're 12, 13. What's the kind of job that they can start doing and actually start earning from? Start earning an honest living. And they doing it isn't because they need it for survival. No. The way I view it is, what are the lessons that they can start learning from that exposure? Because we're going to think about the way we grew up, right? It is the exposure, the guided exposure that our parents provided to us that formed us, right?
Yeah.
And yes, while our kids, of course, are going to have a much more comfortable life than we did, right? I want to make sure that I give them that exposure and not pamper or she. I want to give them exposure so that they can actually learn. They can learn that not everybody is nice in life, and you have to learn how to deal with that. So people are going to come at face in a workplace or in a business transaction, and are going to crush you out. How do you
Mhm.
keep composure in that moment to make sure you can handle the situation? So one thing that at least again I can't claim to know it, or I really don't. I'm still learning myself. But one thing that has been coming to my mind recently has been, how can I provide guided exposure to them so that I can
Okay.
teach them through those experiences that they start to experience in life as early as possible. Because if you think about it, if they start getting that exposure at 12, 13, by the time they're ready for work at age 19, 20, they are they're seasoned veterans. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
That's how I
Exactly.
yeah.
I I think that that's a well-rounded way to put it. You know, this idea of guided exposure. I'm going to look into that because I've heard like different people have like a lot of people have opinions on this, by the way. And like, if for anyone watching this, you can go like research. Like, there's a lot of strategies that people are trying because I came across a study that was done that showed how I think it was only like 20% of families that had generational wealth, only 20% had that wealth get to the second generation, like get past the second generation. You know what I mean? So when we see people like Warren Buffett and the likes of them saying, "I'm not leaving my kids anything. I'm gonna die giving everything away," I feel like that's kind of their fear, where it's like, if I leave you guys all this money, are you guys just gonna waste it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. So I understand that, but I think that's a balanced way to put it. Now I guess my final question for you, Palumi, is this. Actually, no, I'll ask you two more questions. The first question is, as a tech bro, because that's what we are, right? Essentially, AI has like taken over the world, and AI is like the new. It feels like year 2000 when it was the internet bubble and all that stuff, right? And now it feels like AI is kind of like the buzzword, and companies are adding AI behind their name, just to show that we are AI powered. Even though a bunch of them is actually not AI, but that's a different discussion, right? How can I find a lot of people are struggling with the adoption of AI in their personal lives. Now, like, leave work alone. Like, leave work and your work and your career and all that stuff to the side. But in your personal life, what are some of the ways that you're using AI that you found to be really good and you think could actually help people?
Man, a lot. Like one practical way, you're going on vacation, you need to plan an itinerary. Bam, slap it into ChatGPT. You will be surprised what comes out, right? You will be shocked what comes out, right? So for me, I see AI as a tool that helps me to get to an end goal much quicker. Like, why am I browsing through Google to look for things that I'm going to read in this page? And things like that? When I can just ask ChatGPT, no, ChatGPT, I'm trying to get here. What's the best route I should take? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it can really answer all of those kind of questions for you. And I see it as such a massive enhancer to get to a decision even quicker, right? For me, that's how I leverage ChatGPT like in a lot of things personally. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, bro. Like, personal example for me, like this past week, I was trying. My wife was talking about how like she was thinking of creating a meal plan, and I was like, hey, let me actually try this. So I was like, hey, create me a meal plan for 2 weeks.
Yep.
These are, and then I put some of the like kind of dish styles and stuff we
Yep.
would typically
Exactly.
eat. And like it just suggested, and I was like, and then I asked it, create me a grocery list based on the meal plan.
Exactly, right? How much time you've saved. Split it in
Bro, like,
seconds,
yeah,
right?
man. Yeah. So you would tell people, guys, like, get on the train.
Get on the train, man. You don't want to be left behind on this one. Believe me,
Yeah,
you don't lose anything from trying it. You know what I'm saying? You
that's
don't lose
true.
anything from leveraging it, right? I
Yeah.
guess there is an argument where one thing I've been thinking about is potentially does it make some people dumber, right? Where they are not necessarily channeling their brains to think about things. And that's where I
Yeah.
think we have to strike the balance because and that striking the balance doesn't mean don't use it every time. That's not what I'm
Mhm.
suggesting. But I guess what I'm suggesting more so in like striking the balance is in understanding that even though it's spitting out something, really think through it and ask yourself, is this what I really want? Does this align? Don't let ChatGPT paint your vision for you. Maybe that's it. Paint your vision and allow ChatGPT to help you in the
Like the little things, the little details.
little things that lead to the execution of the vision. But as it
Yeah.
suggests those things to you, question yourself: does this align with the vision of the restaurant that I'm trying to go to? Yes, it has. ChatGPT has suggested this. Yeah, but like the vibe I'm really trying to give to this romantic date, because these things are aligned with that, right? That also helps you to think, right? So that's why I feel like people can strike that balance.
Okay. I think that's a good balance to strike for sure. Last question here, Pelumi. Typically I like to end the pod by asking, a very like descriptive, imaginative question. So I want you to imagine like a world where there was this technology where it was a chat essentially that you could send. It was a chat that had like time traveling like capacity. So almost like you could send a message to yourself 10 years ago, right? And but the caveat, the condition is this: it can only be one sentence, it can only be one thought, right? So I want you to imagine that, and imagine that you have that laptop in front of you. It's a blank screen that just has a text box and an enter, and you're limited to one thought, one sentence that you could send to yourself 10 years ago. Now, what would you tell yourself?
Bet on yourself.
Okay, that's a good one.
Bet on yourself. That's what I'll tell myself. On yourself. Um, yeah, that's like for me, it's one thing I tell myself today. It's one thing I've been telling myself a lot lately. Bet on yourself. Bet on yourself. Bet on yourself. You're good enough, right? The people who are doing the people who are doing the amazing things that we hope to do. I'm sorry, but they're not better than us. They don't have two heads, right? They have just dared. They've dared more than us. And through that daring, they've learned in the journey, right? I gotta think about your journey right now, like how you are right now before you started your podcast and everything you're doing. How you are right now isn't how you initially started.
That's
How
right.
it has grown. You're getting more
That's
accustomed
right.
to like being in front of a camera, being in front of, putting yourself out there. So bet on yourself for me is is my sort of like current mantra. If that makes sense.
That's awesome, and that's a phenomenal way to end the pod. Bet on yourself. So for anyone who's listening to this or watching this, I think that's the takeaway from this episode. It's bet on yourself, and like you said, you're good enough to actually bet on yourself. Because I find it's easier for us to often bet on other people and bet on other people's, I guess, capacity and the things that they're able to achieve, but it takes a certain level of strength and a certain level of confidence to say, you know what, I can do this, even when everything around you is telling you that you can't.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
Yep, 100%.
So that's awesome advice, bro. Pelumi, thank you so much for coming on the pod. It was great having you. And for everyone watching, thank you so much. If you watched up until this point, thank you so much for watching. I know you got some value out of this. Make sure to subscribe. Let me know what you think about the episode, about topics we talked about. Put something in the comments, whatever it is. But yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Till next time, God bless.